Okay, good morning. Do we have the jail? Can they hear us?
Yes, Your Honor. We're gonna go ahead and start with Fiori. The house misdemeanors are not here yet.
Okay, so who do we have before us right now?
Allison Fiori.
Fiori, okay. Ma'am, are you Allison Fiori?
Yes.
Great. Give me one moment. Let me get the file. Okay, so Ms. Fiori, good morning. This is a time set for your initial appearance. The charges that you are currently facing at this time are assault, criminal damage, and disorderly conduct, which are each misdemeanor offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. In review of pretrial services information, as well as the information other information available to the court. Just one moment. I do note that I believe that pretrial services was unable to get input from Mr. Fiori regarding release. So at this time, given the limited circumstances that are available or information that's available to the court, at this time the court is, Ms. Fiori, going to release you on your promise to appear, but there are going to be several conditions of release. You are not to engage in use of alcohol or illegal drugs, not to commit any acts of domestic violence, not to possess any firearms or weapons. At this present time, you're not to have any contact with your husband, Mr. Fiori, and you're not to go to his residence or workplace. You may return one time with police escort to pick up belongings. And if you need to have these conditions modified, you'll have to request that the municipal court address these. But as a condition of your release, these are the conditions that the court's putting into place. Your next hearing is at the Zerate Municipal Court. And that is on February 11, 2025, 8:30 a.m. Any questions before we conclude?
So I need to go to Zerate if I need to have conditions changed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now you're not to have any contact. I haven't made any orders about contacting children of Mr. Fiori because he's a direct victim of these alleged acts. That the court is ordering no contact at this time. You may need to file something with the municipal court to have that addressed. But your next hearing is February 11 at 8:30. That's at the municipal court in Zerate. Okay, thank you very much. You're excused.
You can take back that and you so that's all this stuff. Get that case going. So that guy for the hospital. So this is just something that is not a contributing factor, just okay. And it was one of those things where I think, well,
Can you state your name, please?
Good morning, David Mendoza.
One moment. Just want to see which. Can you repeat your name, sir?
David Mendoza.
Okay, we've got some of these mixed up. Okay, one moment, sir. Let me just get your file.
Okay, thank you.
So at this time, Mr. Mendoza, this is the time set for your initial appearance. You're here today on a single charge of failure to provide your truthful name, which is a misdemeanor offense. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Based on the information available to the court is going to be releasing you on your promise to appear at future proceedings. You have a court date that's actually set tomorrow at the Pima County Justice Court. It's tomorrow, January 9, 2025, 1 o'clock p.m. at the Justice Court with Judge Steele. And that'll be your next court date, sir. Do you have any questions at this time? Okay, you're excused. Thank you.
Yes. No, that's good. We're good. So I gotta go to the top. So you're not going to get now to. Yeah.
Oh,
That's the follow.
yeah, you know what? We might need to call him back. Does the jail have Mr. Mendoza? Can we bring him back really quick before we hear the next one? Sorry, I was going too fast on that one.
Your Honor, this is the jail. We're gonna try and get it.
Okay,
See, I'll just-
otherwise, we'll just need to amend his paperwork and set a new date.
Okay, I need to see how they're gonna bring it back, Your Honor.
Okay, great, thanks. Again, Mr. Mendoza, we gave you the wrong court date, so let me just indicate what that's going to be. That's going to be February 7, 2025, and then what was the time? And that's 8:30 a.m. So instead of the date I told you tomorrow, it's actually February 7, 8:30 a.m., and that's still at Justice Court, okay?
Thank you.
Failure to appear could result in you warrant being issued for your arrest, so please make sure that you appear, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Your excuse, sir. Okay, good morning, ma'am. Can you state your name, please?
Coria, Kemp?
Ms. Kemp, this is the time sent for your initial appearance. You are here today on a charge of assault, which is a misdemeanor offense. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Just one moment as I review the complaint. Okay, based on the information that's available to the court, Ms. Kemp, the court is going to institute a bond in the amount of $250 cash or secured as to the assault offense. That would be on top of any other bond that you're currently being held on right now. If you do post bond and you're otherwise released, you're not to engage in use of alcohol or illegal drugs. Court will assign counsel to you at this time, and that is going to be just one moment as we get your attorney assigned. We'll go ahead and have Anna Dennis assigned from the contract. But do you have counsel already, Ms. Kemp, for any other cases?
Yeah, Bethany Graham.
What was that person's name again?
Graham?
Ramm, okay. And did you say Stephanie was the first name? All right, let me see if we can find, I might just appoint that person instead. Oh, she is, okay, all right. So Anna Dennis is a different contract attorney. You'll be able to confer with Ms. Dennis about this separate misdemeanor offense at the Justice Court. And then if your current attorney is able to just take on, Ms. Graham's able to take on both cases, and that's fine. But because we're holding you on this new offense, we have to assign you a separate attorney. That's going to be Anna Dennis. Her contact information will be listed on the paperwork that you'll receive. So you'll have a hearing as to this particular charge on January 9, 2025. That'll be at 1:00 p.m. and that'll be at the Justice Court. If you are out of custody for any reason, you'll have to make sure you appear 1:00 tomorrow at the Justice Court. Otherwise, you'll be made available either in person or virtually by the jail. Any questions before we conclude, Ms. Kemp? Okay, thank you very much. You're excused. Okay, good morning. Can you state your name, please? Ms. Neato, you're here today on an initial appearance. The current charge that you're here for is a assault charge, which is a misdemeanor offense. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Just reviewing the probable cause statement briefly, so hold on just a moment. Okay, so as to the new offense, I know you may be incarcerated as to other charges, but the court is going to institute additional bond in the amount of $250, cash or secured, and that'll be on top of any other bond that you're currently facing at this time for any other offenses. As a condition for release, if you're released as to this matter, and as to other matters, the court is just asking that you not engage in any alcohol or illegal drug use. Court will appoint counsel for you on today's date. That is going to be Anna Dennis from the contract. And so you may have another attorney for any other pending charges. This is going to be a separate attorney who can speak with you about this brand new charge that's in place as to the assault. Your next court date as to this offense only is tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. And that's at the Justice Court. If you're out as to all charges for any reason, and so if you post bond in this one and then you're able to be released on any other charges, you have to make sure that you come to court anyways tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. at the Justice Court. If you're still incarcerated, then you'll be made available probably by video or otherwise in person for that hearing tomorrow as to this assault charge. Do you have any questions, Ms. Neato?
No.
Okay, then you can be excused. Thank you.
You.
Nope.
I'm not just there.
Okay, good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Anthony Gardner.
Mr. Gardner, you're here today for an initial appearance. You have a couple of charges that you're facing: assault and disorderly conduct. These are misdemeanor offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say today can be used against you. In reviewing the probable cause statement, let me also briefly see if I have any input from pretrial services. Looks like pretrial services was unable to reach the alleged victim in the matter as to input. At this time, what the court's going to do, Mr. Gardner, is court is going to order that you be released as to these charges, but there are going to be some conditions of release that you need to follow. So not to engage in use of alcohol or illegal drugs, no acts of domestic violence, not to own or possess any firearms or weapons. For the present time, the court's going to order that you not have any contact with the alleged victim, Benjamin Herrera, and not to go to his residence or workplace. This may or may not cause some complications for you regarding your residence. In the event that you do reside at his residence, the court is going to order that you can return to the residence once and pick up your belongings. If you need to have this adjusted, these conditions, you're going to need to talk to the Justice Court at or before your next hearing to see if that condition can be modified. But these are conditions for you being released today. Your next court date is February 7, 2025, 10:30 a.m. So it's February 7, 2025, 10:30 a.m. at the Justice Court here in Pima County. If you fail to appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest, so make sure that you appear. Do you have any questions about the conditions or the next hearing?
No, sir.
Okay, so thank you. You can be excused.
Thank you.
That's it.
Have a seat out there. Have a seat back where you're at.
Okay, good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Charles Everett Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Just one moment. I just need to review a couple of things, but in general, you're here for a initial appearance, and you are facing misdemeanor charges of DUI, failure to remain at a scene, and failure to yield. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Let me just briefly review the probable cause statement, then we'll proceed. See.
Yeah. Sarge.
Okay, so unfortunately, Mr. Nelson, I don't have as much information as I would like regarding any prior history. Under these circumstances, what the court's going to do is the court is going to release you on these charges, but there's going to be several conditions that you must abide by. You're not to drive without a valid driver's license, no alcohol or illegal drugs. At the present time, the court's going to order that you're not permitted to operate a motor vehicle. And if you need that adjusted, the Marana City Court is the court you're going to, and they're going to have to make changes to that. But for the time being, to ensure we don't have any repeat offenses, the court's going to order that you not operate a motor vehicle until further court order. And all right, so in light of that, then your next court date, sir, is going to be February 26th. 2025 at 10 o'clock a.m. And that's at the Marana City Court. Make sure that you appear at that hearing. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. Do you have any questions, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. At this time, you are being released today, so you can be excused. Thank you.
Rena?
Let's go back out there again. Let's see where you were at.
Okay. Good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
You are facing two charges at this time: criminal damage and disorderly conduct. These are misdemeanor offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. In review of information before the court, putting a probable cause statement, at this time, what the court's going to do is release you on your promise to appear at future proceedings. There are going to be a couple of obligations you have, though, and that is that you not possess or consume any alcoholic beverages or illegal drugs, and you're not to commit any additional acts of domestic violence. Your next court date in this matter is going to be on February 4th, 2025, 1:30 p.m. And that'll be before the Honorable Wendy Million over at Tucson City Court. So February 4th, 1:30 at City Court. Make sure that you appear. If you don't appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. And in general, sir, the court is releasing you. However, some of that is based upon the relatively, in the court's view, relatively minimal actions that are contained, but this is not an invitation, for example, to be released and then commit more serious offenses. The court, in its discretion, could have held you until the next hearing, but is going to give you a chance on this, okay? So make sure that the court's not making a mistake, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, so with that then, you should have everything you need. You are excused. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's see out there.
Carlos?
Okay, good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Go ahead, Carlos.
Mr. Carlos, you're here today on the charge of disorderly conduct as well as assault. These charges are misdemeanor offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. In review of the probable cause statement, complaint and other information available to the court. That also includes input from the alleged victim where there is not an objection to your release. The court is going to release you on today's date on your promise to appear at future dates. There are going to be a couple of conditions of release, however. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and also not to commit any further acts of domestic violence. You have your next court date, which is at Tucson City Court. It's February 4th, 2025, 1:30 p.m. with Judge Million. If you do not appear at that hearing, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. Any questions, sir, before we conclude?
No.
Okay,
No.
you can be excused. Thank you.
And you. Yeah.
Doctor.
Sorry.
Good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Oh, no, it's okay.
Okay, Ms. Tucker, you're here today on, looks like we have a number of pending charges. We have some failures to appear as to disorderly conduct, being in a park location after hours, and drug paraphernalia. Additionally, we have some additional new charges of assault, disorderly conduct, criminal damage. These are misdemeanor offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. In order to ensure your appearance at the next date and based upon prior failures to appear and the totality of the charges before the court is going to institute bond in this matter in the amount of $150 cash or secured. And then upon your release, if bond is posted, you're not to commit any acts of domestic violence, not to have any weapons or firearms, not to have any alcohol or illegal drugs. And let me see one other thing. And you're also not to return to the incident location.
Okay.
All right. The court is going to assign the city public defender's office to represent you in this matter. Your next court date is going to be on January 17, 2025, 1:45 p.m. And that's at the Tucson City Court with Judge Cranshaw. If you're still in custody at that time, then you'll be made available for that hearing. If you're not in custody because you post bond, then you need to make sure to go to court January 17, 1:45 at City Court. You don't appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest, and then we're doing this process all over again. Any questions, ma'am, before we conclude?
Bail.
150, cash or secured.
Okay.
And if you need more clarification on that, you may just need to speak with somebody at the jail who can assist you with, I don't know who exactly facilitates payment of bond over there, but you also have the city public defender who's assigned to represent you. They should be contacting you shortly, and you can discuss how to post bond with them as well.
Did she postpone?
Yeah.
You can give her the outdate. Because you told her to show up at the very new date
Right.
if she postponed.
Okay.
But that's only with maybe an interview.
We're just trying to clarify something really quick. Do I need to
Okay.
engage?
Yeah, is there an outdate?
Yeah.
Yeah, if she bonds out or gets released,
Okay.
she could go on the outdate.
Okay, so you want me to put both dates on here?
Yes.
All right, so we're just getting clarification from the clerk here that we're gonna list a second date that's on your paperwork that you'll receive. That's on February 13, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. If you did end up posting bond, that would be the next court date that you would have. But I think it would behoove you to make sure that you try to appear January 17, 1:45 regardless, because even if you thought maybe you didn't have to appear at that and you did have to appear, could cause a warrant to be issued inadvertently. So if you're still in custody, at least through the 17th, make sure that just if you're going to appear at that video review, if you get out before the 17th, you probably want to check in and be at that court hearing anyways, just to verify that you don't need to be at court. Otherwise, a warrant could issue inadvertently. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions before we finish today?
No.
Okay, then you're excused. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Good morning, Seth Via.
All right, so just one moment, Mr. Villa. So in general, you do have several misdemeanor offenses that we're doing an initial appearance for you on today's date. Disorderly conduct and unlawful imprisonment. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Give me one moment to review the complaint in this matter. One moment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Mr. Villa, in review, so the court's reviewed some documentation for today, including what's called a pretrial services report. The pretrial services report, which is the product of an interview with you to discuss with the alleged victims what should happen in this case. The court did not receive any specific indication that the victims in this matter, Timothy, Catherine, and Danielle, are objecting to your release. So in light of that, what the court is going to do is going to be releasing you on these charges, but you are going to have future court dates and there are going to be conditions that you have to meet while you're out of custody, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so these will include that you're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to commit any further acts of domestic violence. And for the present moment, the court's going to order that you not return to the incident location where this all occurred. If that is your full-time residence, then you may return one time with law enforcement to retrieve personal belongings. Your next court date in this matter is a hearing on February 18, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. So that's February 18, 9:30 at City Court with Judge Sergio. And that'll be the next time that you have to appear in court on this. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. If you need to have the condition regarding not going back to the incident location modified, you'll need to specifically request that the city court change that by filing the appropriate paperwork with the city court. I can't give you any more guidance than that. I can't give you legal advice, but otherwise, if you obtain a separate residence to live, then it's of no consequence. But these are the conditions for you to be released. Any questions at this time?
So my car's parked in the driveway. Am I allowed to, like, I have my car key, am I allowed to just like go in the driveway to get my car to like leave? You know what I mean? Or am I not even allowed to like step in the driveway?
You are allowed to be there once with law enforcement to pick up belongings, and so you may want to pick up your vehicle at that occasion, on that occasion.
Oh, do it all at once, right? Got it. And would I just call like 911?
I'm not exactly sure. You may want to try the non-emergency line first because it's not necessarily an emergency, but or you may want to speak with somebody at the jail to see if they can provide any additional feedback on that before you leave too. They may have better ideas than I do.
I understand. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so Mr. Villa, you are excused. Thank you very much.
Very good. Have a second.
All right, good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Keith Robinson.
Mr. Robinson, we show that you're here today on 2 counts of threatening or intimidating, which are misdemeanor offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I just need to review a couple of matters really quick. Can the jail clarify, is there a probation hold right now?
No,
No probation hold? Okay. Any other holds that the court should be aware of?
Hey, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Just one moment, Mr. Robinson. I'm just looking at something really quick.
Yes, sir.
Okay. At this point, what the court's going to do, Mr. Robinson, is the court's going to release you on your promise to appear at future court proceedings. There are going to be conditions for your release, however. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, not to commit any acts of domestic violence. At this time, the court is going to order that you not go to the victim's residence. It sounds like you may reside there on a full-time basis. And so if that's the case, then You are permitted to return one time with law enforcement to retrieve personal belongings. If there's any sort of civil dispute regarding your right to be at the residence, that's probably going to have to be raised in a separate court proceeding. But as a condition of you being released from jail today, that is something the court's going to insist on. Your next court date in this matter is a out of custody pretrial hearing. That'll be February 13, 2025, 9:30 a.m. at the city court. So February 13, 9:30 a.m. at city court with Judge Cranshaw. And that's the next time that you need to appear in court on this. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. Do you have any questions, sir, before we conclude?
No, sir.
Thank you. You are excused. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Registration?
Patrick?
Okay. And can the jail indicate, do we have anybody else present in the waiting room?
No.
Okay, so Mr. Badger is the only defendant there?
Yes.
And then we do have defense counsel there, correct?
Yes, Judge. This is
Mr.
Ryan Gibson from the Public Defender's Office.
Thank you. And then Mr. Poston, we have you there. Can you see us and hear us?
I can see and hear you, Your Honor. Can you see and hear me?
We can, thank you. Okay, so Mr. Badger, you're here today on what's called an initial appearance. And you are facing, looks like 10 felony counts of sexual exploitation of a minor. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel, and there is counsel seated next to you to assist you. State's recommendation in this matter is that bond be set in the amount of $300,000 and then with release to pretrial services. Mr. Poston, any additional record that you want to make?
Yes, Your Honor. After having reviewed this complaint, the state would submit the following. This person who up until recently was entrusted with our children, he was working at TUSD as a teacher, has been shown to have predilections that fuel a global industry, misery and suffering, and the exploitation of children. Setting a very high bond, Your Honor, is the only way to ensure that the safety of the community and our children is preserved. This person has violated in most. He now has nothing to lose. He's a dangerous predator. He needs a bond fixed high enough, notwithstanding the NCA and FTA scales, which I believe to be spurious and inaccurate, that he is not given the opportunity to reoffend. And no third party can ever ensure that he is kept away from the internet 24/7, 365, and given the opportunity to offend again, Your Honor. $300,000.
Thank you, Mr. Poston. Mr. Gibson, any record you want to make?
Yes, Your Honor. So Mr. Badger, as County Attorney pointed out, he scored only a 1 point on each scale, which is as low as you can get. He worked for the school district. That implies that he had a clean criminal record as well. He's presumed innocent at this point, and I believe a bond of no more than $50,000 would be appropriate.
Okay. At this time, the court is going to set bond in this matter in the amount of $150,000 cash is secured with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. As court will appoint the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent Mr. Badger. Additionally, the court is going to order as additional potential conditions of release that the defendant is to have no access to the internet unless approved by future court order or by pretrial services. Additionally, the defendant is not permitted to have contact with any minor children. Next court date, Mr. Badger, for you is going to be what's called a preliminary hearing, January 21st, 2025, 1:30 p.m. And that's at the Pima County Justice Court. And then any questions before we conclude? Okay, at this time, you're excused. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Morning, sir. Can you state your name, please? In the court's discretion, the court, and upon visual inspection of the defendant, the court is going to order continuing this matter to the afternoon based upon the defendant's physical inability to proceed at today's hearing. This will be Mr. Ibarra.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we're dealing with Mr. Ibarra then?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're going to go ahead and continue to the afternoon for the reasons stated on the record. So you're excused, sir. Thank you.
Bar, let's go. Bar, let's set up.
And counsel for defense, your last name is Gibson, right, sir?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Just want to make sure,
Yes.
want to make sure I heard that correctly. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, good.
Good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Chance Nations.
Okay, Mr. Nations, you're here today on 3 different offenses. Can we confirm there are no other defendants in the room, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Is that going to be the case for each of the next several that we have?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Mr. Nations, you're here today on 3 different felony charges, domestic violence, kidnapping, child abuse, and disorderly conduct involving a weapon. These are felony offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. There is provisional counsel seated next to you on today's date. The state is recommending that bond be set in the amount of $250,000 with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Mr. Poston, any additional record?
Your Honor, this defendant, when in custody of his child, entered into an argument with the child's mother, and then the defendant made threats to not only kill himself, but also kill the child. He took the child away on a walk, such as it is, took a firearm with it, and then admitted pointing the firearm at the child.
I never did.
And post Miranda, he admitted to threatening to kill himself and the child, and he made references to pointing the firearm at the child's head. $250,000, Your Honor.
Mr. Gibson?
Considering all things in this case, I think a bond no more than 100,000 would be.
Okay. Well, the court is extremely concerned about the nature of the allegations. I know at this point that they're not proven facts, but the allegations themselves, I think based upon what's been presented to the court so far, that the court can readily determine that Mr. Nations at this time could be a danger to the community, especially to the minor child that's listed there. So in light of that, bond is set in the amount of $200,000 cash is secured with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Conditions of release for Mr. Nations will be that no alcohol or illegal drugs, no acts of domestic violence, no firearms or weapons. Any firearms still in possession shall be surrendered. Monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services shall be followed. No contact with the individual Neone Lowry. And also no contact with the minor child in common with Neone Lowry unless later approved by a court order. Counsel is appointed in this matter, the Pima County Public Defender's Office. Mr. Nations, you have a court hearing January 21st, 2025, 1:30 p.m. And that's at the Pima County Justice Court. Make sure that you appear at that hearing. If you're still in custody, then you'll be made available for that hearing. If you are out of custody, you'll need to make sure that you appear anyways. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. And Mr. Nations, I'll just say in general, if any, you don't have to respond. I would request that you not respond unless you've conferred first with your attorney who's there. If any of the events which may have occurred are the result of behavioral health or mental health difficulties, you may want to consider obtaining the appropriate treatment to address that. But I will leave that to you to decide at a future date. The court has considered whether that may have been a possible explanation for what's happened, but at the same time, there's too much risk involved based upon the stated facts for the court to make a different decision. So that's where the court stands at this time. Any questions before we conclude?
Judge, if I may, absolutely. If I may, would you allow me the opportunity to go to therapy and show you that I'm not a danger to myself or others? I will be admitted into a facility if you will allow me that opportunity, please. My daughter's birthday is next month. She will be 1 year old next month. I've been the primary caretaker for the majority of her life. And I understand the circumstances. I'm asking you for the opportunity to send me to a facility where I can actually get the mental help that I need. I've been crying out to my family for the mental help that I need. I've made it apparent time and time again. I've asked them for help. I'm begging you, please, from the bottom of my heart.
Mr. Nations, one of the complications with that idea is that I don't know what is necessarily available. It's an outcome that is at this present moment. I have to make a decision in this moment. What is the appropriate outcome? You are being appointed counsel at the Public Defender's Office, and it sounds like you do have some family members who are involved with your well-being. In consultation with all those individuals, it may be possible that you obtain the outcome that you're requesting at this present time, but that's not something that I can authorize with the limited information I have on today's date. So I suggest that you talk to your appointed attorney and determine if that is an outcome that can be reached in the near future. So with that, then we'll go ahead at this time. We'll go ahead and excuse you, Mr. Nations. Thank you for appearing today.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Romero.
Good morning, ma'am. Can you state your name, please?
Brianna Romero.
Mr. Romero, we have you here today for an initial appearance. It's the 3 different offenses. We have it for endangerment, child abuse, and aggravated DUI. These are felony offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to counsel in this matter, and there is provisional counsel seated next to you to assist you. In this matter, the state is recommending bond be set in the amount of $15,000, then released to pretrial services. Mr. Poston, any additional record?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Gibson, any record on behalf of the defendant?
Your Honor, I did not have to see a pretrial services report on the defendant, but I believe a bond of no more than 10,000 in this type of case would be appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, pretrial services, the report was short. It really just sort of reiterated things that were indicated in the probable cause statement. Okay, I think given the input from everybody, the court at this time is going to institute bond in the amount of $10,000 cash or secured with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. As conditions for release, Ms. Romero, if you are released at a future point, you're not to drive without a valid license, no alcohol or illegal drugs, follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. The court will appoint the Pima County legal defender to represent you. And as a condition for release, the court is going to order that you may not drive a motor vehicle separate and apart from having a valid license. If you need that modified at any future point, you can speak with your legal defender about filing the appropriate motion to have that condition modified. Since you are being held in custody at the present time, Mr. Romero, your next court date is a preliminary hearing, January 21st, 2025, 1:30 p.m. at the Pima County Justice Court. Make sure that you appear at that date. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. Any questions before we conclude today?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Romero. You are excused.
In a family court, usually takes up $1,000, or 10% of the bond. So I just 10,000.
Okay, so I just,
Yeah, call that as soon as you can.
so I've never been through this before, so I don't know.
Yes, the bill will explain to you.
I go out there and I call right now.
Whenever they, yeah, as soon as you can.
Okay.
Sometime today.
Thank you. So once they post the bond or they get the $1,000 and it's to the bond person, then I have to wait. What was it yesterday?
Then you at least. Yeah, good luck.
Okay, good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Tyrese Williams.
Mr. Williams, you're here today on initial appearance for a couple of felony matters. We have attempted first-degree murder and possessing a firearm as a prohibited possessor. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel, and there is counsel seated next to you to assist on today's date. The state is recommending that bond be set in the amount of $1 million plus release to pretrial services. Mr. Poston, any additional record?
Your Honor, state would just wants to reiterate the absolute brutality of the allegations in the PC statement. Apparently, this person had some sort of dispute with the victim, and a week after an initial argument, the defendant arrived, sought out the victim, shot him 4 times, tried to shoot him again in the face, but apparently the weapon jammed. He cleared the malfunction, fired it 4 more times into the air, and then shot the victim an additional 5 times. Your Honor, it doesn't get more dire than this. And plus, to add on to that, he's a prohibited possessor. The fact that this person is still alive is an absolute miracle. $1 million.
Okay.
And Your Honor, we don't know what his current condition is.
Mr. Gibson, any additional record?
Yes, Your Honor. I mean, I understand that $1 million is, as a rule of thumb, for actual first-degree murder case. This is an attempted murder. At this point, I think a bond of no more than $250,000 would be appropriate.
Okay. All right. Court is going to institute bond in the amount of $500,000 cash or secured with release to pretrial services if the bond is posted. Court finds that the defendant based upon the allegations, information before the court does present a danger to the community, which requires high bond be set. If Mr. Williams does post bond, there will be some conditions of release: no alcohol or illegal drugs, no firearms or weapons, and any firearms are still in the defendant's possession should be surrendered to the appropriate law enforcement agency. Follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. Court will order appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent Mr. Williams. And then, Mr. Williams, your next court date is a preliminary hearing at the Justice Court. That's at January 21st, 2025, 1:30 p.m. Failure to appear at that hearing could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. And then, sir, any questions before we conclude?
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. You are excused.
So she. So they can. Stuff for the
I mean, the first one, you go around, I have. The other side. Right, yeah. Hey, I'll help you.
Good morning. Can you state your name, please? Okay, Mr. Ramm, we have a number of things we're going to see here for today for initial appearance. Just give me one moment to verify a couple of things and then we'll get started. So just one moment, please.
Where's the garage?
It looks like we have felony stuff and then we have the city, and then, so does this one have all of the pending charges in city court on it?
Yes.
Do you want me to sign all the rest of the forms though? Because there's another one that's filed here. Yeah. So right here. So I think it looks like it might just be the same page again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just take a look. That's why I just want to clarify. Okay.
That's for dust. This one's dust. Who's that one? This one is, Duran, right?
Yeah, so I don't have a let me see, 13. So that's a set, did that file get, looks like they get mixed up? Oh, yeah, it's the last one here. Okay, we get that one back in there, great. Okay, perfect.
You haven't seen it, so you could put, that's gonna be seen next.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. All right, sorry about the delay, Mr. Ramm. We just had a gap with the files here, so we'll go ahead and get started. So, Mr. Ramm, we're going to start with the felony offenses that you're facing here on today's date. You do have two separate matters, cause numbers with different felony charges. The first one is promoting prisoner contraband and also possession of narcotics, which are each felony offenses. As to all the felony offenses that you're facing today, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. As to the looks like at least it's the one of them, if not both. But yeah, it's both. State is recommending that no bond be set. Mr. Poston, do you want to explain why?
Your Honor, she was already out on release for a previous felony matter, Pima County Superior Court case here, 2024-3611.
Okay, and so that was a felony matter that's pending, and she was on release for that.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gibson, any additional record?
No, Your Honor. I think by statute, that's the county attorney is correct about requesting no bond.
Okay. In that case, then what the court will do then is, as to this matter and additionally as to this other felony matter, which are being heard today, Mr. N, the court is going to be holding you without bond because you had a prior felony offense for which you were released, which, as the attorneys have indicated, is a basis for holding without bond. Court is going to set for you a no bond hearing, January 13, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. So that'll be next week at 2:30 PM at the Superior Court. And it'll be heard then whether a bond should be set as to these new offenses. Any other bond that's set right now, I guess you would have already posted it if one was set, but anyway, so that's the next hearing as to that. And then additionally, you have, as to these new charges, however, you do have a preliminary hearing, January 21st, 2025, 1:30 PM at the Justice Court. So that's a second hearing after the one on the 13th. It's a Justice Court, January 21st, 1:30 PM for a preliminary hearing. And so let me just go ahead and get these approved and then we'll go on. We have some city court matters we have to talk about today as well. As just to indicate that as a condition of release on these new offenses related to the possession of narcotics and contraband, not to engage in use of alcohol or illegal drugs. And the Pima County Public Defender's Office is appointed in both matters. So just give me one moment to get everything marked here, and then we will be all set as to the felony offenses. Okay, and then as to the city court matter, we have some pending charges in this Tucson City Court for theft, criminal trespass, disorderly conduct, and drug paraphernalia. I presume we're dealing with some failures to appear as to those, since these are older offenses, but nonetheless, what the court is going to do to ensure your appearance at these proceedings, the court is going to set bond in this matter in the amount of $100 cash or secured. Court will order not to or go to the incident location for any theft or disorderly conduct. The city public defender's office is appointed to represent you as to these city court charges, and additionally no alcohol or illegal drugs. Next court date in this matter, the court is going to order for consolidating with case number 21038822, and the hearing that was previously set January 15 at 9:30 in the city court is vacated. We have a new hearing that is set then on January 17, 2025 at 1:45 PM. And that'll be with Judge Verena at the city court. And that'll be for video review. So that'll be for the city court matters, the next court dates that you have, Mr. Rand. So 3 different court dates, the 13th, the 17th, and the 21st as to all these pending charges. Make sure that you appear at future dates, and failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued. A lot of information. So Mr. Rand, do you have any questions at this time? Okay, with that, you are excused. Thank you, ma'am. Do you want this one or do you want me to give it over? Okay.
Yes.
Good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Harry Randall Dust.
Okay, Mr. Dust, we have you here today on some felony offenses of narcotic drug possession, dangerous drug possession, and drug paraphernalia. These are felony offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. State's recommendation as to these is that bond be set in the amount of $2,500 plus release to pretrial services. And the state appears to also be requesting that a smart court hearing be set. Can you verify any or all of that, Mr. Poston?
Yes, Your Honor. This would have been a straightforward PTS, other than the fact that when looking up Mr. Mr. Dust's information, he's got a quite long record of contacts with law enforcement, which gives us pause to straightforward PTS, hence the recommendation. Thank you.
And then Mr. Gibson?
Yes, Your Honor. I think release to pretrial services, and that would put the onus on Mr. Dust to show up to court and take advantage of the smart courts. I think he should have the opportunity to be out of custody and show up to court.
Let me see. Mr. Poston, are you aware what happened with the November offenses for threatening, intimidating, disorderly, and criminal damage?
One moment, Your Honor.
And Mr.
I'm sorry, Judge. What was the date of that again?
Those would have been offenses that were, the offense date would have been November 15, 2024.
And it was Pima County that was the jurisdiction, or is it city?
Let me verify, because I know we have a city court matter we need to hear too. So it's possible that those were city. I just wasn't sure if those are the same offenses that you found in the system.
What I'm seeing in the system, Judge,
Looks like they're city court offenses.
yes. And but what I was seeing was not only the city court offenses, but looking at all of this. I'm looking at quite a few. You know, the state's going to go ahead and submit on that point on the record at this point, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Gibson, did I already go to you for input?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, and
I don't have anything, nothing further.
okay, you're requesting release to pretrial services?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Would Mr. Dust waive time as to the preliminary hearing?
I didn't discuss that with him, but this is may I just do that real quickly, Your Honor?
That's fine.
Yes, Judge, willing to waive time.
Mr. Dust, it looks like we have a lot of offenses that are before the court right now. In general, we're going to talk about your city court ones next, but we'll give you an opportunity to report to pretrial services, check in, go to your next court dates. Would you be able to meet that obligation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any reasons why you believe you may not be able to do that?
No.
Okay, do you have valid transportation? Is that all squared away?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so under the circumstances, the court will order releasing the defendant through third-party supervision of pretrial services. Mr. Dust, you do have a couple of conditions of release. You are not to engage in consumption of alcohol or illegal drugs, and also follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. We often see folks fail to check in with pretrial services, and then a warrant's issued for their arrest. So do make sure that you're checking in with them. Court will appoint the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent Mr. Dust. Smart hearing is going to be set January 15, 2025 at 9:00 a.m. at the Superior Court. So it's January 15, 9:00 a.m. for the smart hearing. Preliminary hearing will then be set at the Justice Court, February 24th, 2025, 1:30 p.m. for preliminary hearing on these felony offenses. Make sure that you go to upcoming court dates. Mr. Dust failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest, and then the next judge that sees the case may decide not to let you out, okay? One last thing we have to go over, and that's going to be your city court charges. We have several pending city court charges. We have a prior failure to appear for criminal trespass, as well as some other misdemeanor matters, threatening and intimidating, criminal damage, disorderly conduct. Since the court's giving you a chance to show that you'll go to court as to the felony matters, the court is going to give you a break on this one, this time, Mr. Dust. But again, we find yourselves with a different judicial officer. They may make a different determination. So just please make sure that you appear. The court will order releasing on promise to appear, order that there, to the extent applicable, not any acts of domestic violence, not to return to any incident location. And next court date then in the city court. So this will be a third court date that you have to keep track of, Mr. Dust, and it'll be written down for you. We'll have February 28th, 2025, 9:00 a.m. And that will be held at the city court, Tucson City Court with Judge Hale. Do you have any questions, Mr. Dust, before we conclude?
No, sir.
Okay, with that, you are excused. Thank you very much.
Just make sure you,
What's happening?
so you're going to be released to pretrial services. Make sure you call them. So it'll probably take a few hours, but call that number when you can.
Oh, so I'm getting released today.
Yeah, sometime today. I don't know what time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, look.
Thank you.
Boris, Marco, I don't see out there. Where were you at? That door.
Good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Marco Antonio Flores.
Okay, Mr. Flores, you're here today on a charge of aggravated assault, which is a class 2 felony. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. There is counsel seated next to you for your assistance. State is recommending bond be set in the amount of $10,000 plus release to pretrial services. Mr. Poston, any additional record?
Yes, Your Honor. This person, for some reason, this person was circling in the vicinity of, meandering by the victim's car. The victim, confused as to what's going on, exited the car and asked what was going on. The defendant is then alleged to have pulled out a handgun, pointed at the victim's face, and asked him, "Are you scared?" This sort of unprovoked, wanton threatening with deadly force indicates a clear danger to the community. $10,000.
Okay, and Mr. Gibson, any record?
Yes, Your Honor, just, considering he has no prior felonies, and it sounds like the victim approached his car. And I understand the victim said that the car was being circled, the victim exited the vehicle. I think a bond of no more than 5,000 would be appropriate.
Okay. At this time, the court will, on the information available to the court, we do have some city court matters to address, but based for the felony charges, the court will set bond in the amount of $7,500 cash or secured with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. And then, Mr. Flores, if you are released, you're to have the following release conditions: no alcohol or illegal drugs, no, not to possess any firearms or weapons, surrender any firearms or weapons still in your possession to relevant law enforcement, follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. Court will appoint the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you. Finally, your last court date in this matter is or your next court date in this matter is, for the felony offenses, January 21st, 2025, 1:30 p.m. for a preliminary hearing. That's at the Justice Court. Make sure you appear at that hearing, and any other hearings that we set today, failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. And then we're going to turn now to the city court matters. You have 4 pending charges for criminal trespass and obstruction, and there's failure to appear as to these charges in the city court. In order to ensure your appearance and also to provide some credit for any period of incarceration that you have, court will order bond be set in the amount of $250 cash or secured. Court will appoint the city public defender's office to represent you in this matter, and any prior release conditions are affirmed as to these failures to appear. All right. So next court date then, Mr. Flores in the city court is going to be a video review, and that is January 17, 2025, 1:45 p.m. And that's at the Tucson City Court. Make sure that you appear at that hearing. If you're still incarcerated, you will be transported for that hearing automatically. Otherwise, if you are out of custody before that hearing, make sure that you appear. And that should cover it for today. Any questions, sir?
Yes, I was told that I had lawyers that represented me to those court cases that said I wasn't that everything was okay, that I didn't have to go to court for those hearings, and I never pointed a gun at anyone.
Don't talk about the case.
I don't understand what's going on, Your Honor. I apologize. I'm being told one thing by humans, and then it's not the truth, and I don't understand what's going on. And I apologize.
Well, so Mr. Flores, some things need to be worked out. The court has been presented with some information that gives the court some concern about whether there's a danger to the community if you're to be released at today's date. The court, in order to protect the community, is ordering that you be incarcerated, at least for now, and held on bond. And if you post bond, you can be released. The city court matters that you're talking about, where you may have had other counsel, the court is going to appoint the city public defender's office to represent you. You're able to discuss with that attorney who represents you there. If you have other counsel where maybe they can take over for representation, or then they can, at the very least, help explain more about what's going on. in the city court matter. So after speaking with them, you should have a little bit more clarity as well. But that's about as much as I can offer for today, Mr. Flores. So any other questions before we conclude?
Yes, Prince. I'm on medicine man for the Bosco Yaqui tribe, and I was wondering, and I was hoping, Your Honor, sir, if I could be released and stay on the reservation, because I keep getting taken off the reservation, and I was on dead man's land, which is between a business and a street, and they keep pulling me off. I told them that I can be there, standing there, and not be arrested, and they keep arresting me and telling me that they're not going to arrest me and they're not going to take me to jail, and they do, Your Honor. So I don't understand why I'm being told one thing by the police officers, and then next thing you know, they're doing the complete opposite. So I apologize for not having the legal terms and ramifications to justify my immediate release, and that's what I'm hoping for. And since I am a medicine man, I'm not supposed to be taken off the reservation, and I keep getting taken off the reservation, which is a Bosco Yaqui tribe reservation. And can I please be released immediately so I can return to healing tribal members as well as other members of the community, because I am no threat, Your Honor, whatsoever that I could contend with. Thank you.
Sure. So, sorry, to the extent that you're moving to have you be released on today's date, the court will deny that motion without prejudice. It sounds like you have potentially a colorable claim to raise with your city public defender or your public defender, and they may be able to assist you with getting that outcome. But for today's purposes, the court's ruling will stand as is, and we do need to see other defendants on today's date, so the court will excuse you at this time. Thank you, sir, and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, make sure you just call that number. Tell us about that, about the medicine man, stuff like that. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Legends. Have a seat out there, Flores, right?
Good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Douglas Hutcheson.
Mr. Hutcheson, you're here today for an initial appearance on some felony charges: possession of a dangerous drug, weapons misconduct involving a firearm, and possession of drug paraphernalia. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. Counsel is seated next to you to assist you on today's date. State is recommending that bond be set in this matter in the amount of $7,500 with release to pretrial services thereafter. Mr. Poston, any additional record?
Your Honor, the state notes that he was in possession of alleged to be in possession of 4 grams of meth, not an insignificant amount. And what's more troubling is it was a 9mm carbine. And also this person has an extensive history of law enforcement contact, but somehow has avoided none of the charges have stuck to date. But we're looking at basically a pistol caliber rifle, a person that is no stranger to law enforcement, and a fairly large amount of meth.
Mr. Gibson?
State stands by its recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Gibson?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe Mr. Hutcheson scored mid-range, 3 points on each scale. So I think a bond of no more than $5,000 would be appropriate in this case. Yeah. Talk to your lawyer.
You sound real good.
Talk to your lawyer about it.
Okay.
So based upon the quantity that was indicated, plus the presence of the firearm, I do believe that bond should be set in this matter to protect the community. So the court at this time will, however, set bond in the amount of $5,000 cash is secured with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Mr. Hutcheson, a few conditions of release if you do post bond: no alcohol or illegal drugs, no firearms or weapons, any firearms or weapons in your possession to be surrendered to the appropriate law enforcement agency. Follow any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. The court will appoint counsel for you, the Pima County Legal Defender's Office, and you'll have a court date coming up, a preliminary hearing at the Pima County Justice Court, January 21st, 2025, 1:30 p.m. Failure to appear, Mr. Hutcheson, could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. If you are still incarcerated, then you'll be made available for that hearing. Any questions before we conclude?
I guess. But just, it's not a firearm, it wasn't a firearm. It was a BB pistol, a big BB pistol.
Okay.
And it broke it.
So some of these circumstances may be able to be raised with the appointed counsel for you, and that could cause reduction of bond or otherwise. But for the time being, just on the limited information I have, that's the court's determination for today. So thank you, Mr. Hutcheson. You are excused.
That's a great, you can bring up fingerprints. I think they can file a motion. We still have any more information. Do that today or they call it? Okay. Okay, yeah, it's very low fine. Yeah, it wasn't even a gun.
All right. Johnson.
Good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Johnson.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, here today for a initial appearance as to 2 felony counts of possession of a narcotic drug and possession of a drug paraphernalia. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel, and you have counsel there next to you to assist you on today's date. The state is recommending that you be released to the third-party supervision of pretrial services and that a smart hearing be set. Any additional requests, Mr. Poston?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Gibson, first, does your client object to setting a smart hearing?
No, you're not.
Second, is it okay to continue out the preliminary hearing?
Yes, so if you set up preliminary, it allows you to participate, you should apply to be in the spent for it. Well, I would wait. Right, to release, but want to take advantage of it if possible. Yes, Judge. Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Johnson, the court will order on at this time that you be released to the third-party supervision of pretrial services. The court will order as conditions of release, however, that you're not to engage in use of alcohol or possession of alcohol or illegal drugs, follow any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services, and you are appointed the Pima County legal defender as your counsel in this matter. Your next hearings in this case will be a smart hearing, which is set a week from today, January 15, 9:00 a.m. at the Pima County Superior Court. Make sure you appear at that hearing in order to avail yourself of the smart court diversion process that Mr. Gibson was just telling you about. You also have a preliminary hearing set February 24th, 2025, 1:30 p.m. at the Justice Court. That's your next at the Justice Court. Any questions before we conclude?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
With that, you are excused. Thank you.
Make sure you show up for the court. 15. So that's really important. Thank you.
Peterson.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. Can you identify yourself first and last name, please?
Yes, Janet Peterson.
Okay, Ms. Peterson, you're here today on several felony charges. I'm sorry, 1 felony charge and several misdemeanor charges. You are facing a charge of criminal damage, which is class 5 felony. And you also have several misdemeanor charges related to DUI over certain BAC limits, 0.08, 0.15, and 0.20 respectively. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to representation by counsel, and there is counsel available today to assist you. The state is recommending that bond be set in the amount of $5,000 plus release to pretrial services. Mr. Poston, any additional recommendation?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Gibson, anything in response?
Yes, Your Honor, I would urge the court to release Ms. Peterson to pretrial services. I think that'd be appropriate to assure her appearance at future court dates.
Okay. Well, among the listed charges that we have appears to be aggravated DUI, indicating a 3rd DUI, which indicates to the courts that this is not the first time this has happened. Additionally, the BAC that's reported is extremely high, 0.269. Under the circumstances, the court, in order to protect the community, the court is going to set bond in this matter. The amount of $2,500 cash is secured. with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Court will order that the defendant may not drive without a valid driver's license, no alcohol or illegal drugs, follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. Additionally, the defendant is not permitted to drive a motor vehicle until further court order. And counsel is appointed to the Pima County Public Defender's Office. Ms. Peterson, your next court date is January 21st, 2025, 1:30 p.m. That is a preliminary hearing at the Justice Court. That'll be your next court hearing to address these offenses. If you post bond before you are released, then you still need to appear at that hearing. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. Do you have any questions before we conclude?
Yes, sir. I guess I'm confused. I cannot drive or I can drive with a valid driver's license.
So the standard condition that we put is that you may not drive without a valid license, but I'm imputing the additional condition that you're not to drive a vehicle at all until further court order. If you need to have that modified, you can request through your public defender or assigned attorney that be lifted. But I'm putting that as an additional condition in this case, not to drive a motor vehicle at all. So the court would need to lift that at a future point in order for you to be able to drive.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, and you are excused.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Because they should call the public defender.
Okay.
Right?
Thank
Good luck. Yeah. thanks.
Portillo?
Mark the PD for the NCR.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Jonathan Portillo.
Mr. Portillo, you're here today. Looks like you were picked up on a fugitive warrant issued out of Riverside, California. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. The state is recommending that you be held without bond pending resolution of the warrant and potential extradition. Any additional record, Mr. Poston?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Gibson, any additional record?
I know, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Portillo, when folks are picked up on warrants, fugitive warrants here in Arizona, what we do is we hold them without bond and set them for a hearing fairly quickly with the Superior Court in order to get that addressed. And then from there, you'll be able to determine if you are waiving extradition or contesting whether you are properly the person on the warrant. So what the court's going to do at this time is the court's going to order that you be held without bond until at least until the hearing on January 13, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. at the Pima County Superior Court. Court will appoint the Pima County Legal Defender's Office to represent you. And then at that hearing, you'll have an opportunity to speak, if not previously, with the legal defender assigned to you, and then address the warrant issue further. Any questions, Mr. Portillo, before we conclude today? So law enforcement, sure. So yeah. So in general, law enforcement had an encounter with you at some point, found that there was a warrant issued out of Riverside, California, and so they took you into custody on that. And then the protocol here in Arizona, if that happens, is that you need to be specific process. That's just the term that's used for the warrant being issued. But you'll have a chance to address it further at your next hearing on January 13th. That is about as quickly as we can do because we have to set it at the next available hearing. And given the date that it is on today's date, the next hearing is going to be next Tuesday on the 13th. So anything additional, Mr. Portillo, at this time?
Nothing at all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Portillo. You are excused.
Nothing important.
Okay, good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Carlos Padron Rodas.
Okay, Mr. Rosas, it looks like we have you here on a couple of matters. First one appears to be a failure to appear issued out of the Superior Court by Judge Goodwin. $5,000 bond was issued, or warrant was issued for failure to appear. So you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. State is recommending that as to this failure to appear, that bond be set in the amount of essentially the warrant amount, $5,000. Any additional record, Mr. Poston?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Gibson, any record you want to make?
I have nothing, Your Honor. Sorry.
Okay, so Mr. Roses, it looks like there was a hearing that was previously set. It may have been an arraignment or something else, but in any event, you had not appeared at that hearing. And so what the court's going to do at this time is set bond in the amount of $5,000 cash or secured. And that will ensure at minimum that you will make sure to appear at your arraignment that's set as to the narcotics charge that was pending. That arraignment is set January 15, 2025, 1:30 p.m. at the Superior Court in Pima County. Court is going to appoint the Pima County Legal Defender's Office to represent you. Court will also order that any prior release conditions are affirmed. As to the possession case, we have one more matter to go ahead and address today. And that is, looks like we have two additional offenses rising from January 7, 2024, narcotic drug possession and paraphernalia possession. So you do have a right to remain silent as to those. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to counsel, and there is counsel here to assist you. State is recommending that bond be set $5,000, and essentially it'd be a concurrent with the other bond that we just set. So basically that $5,000 total as to all offenses. Mr. Poston, do I have that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so essentially asking that we not do anything additional as to these charges, but do hold you on bond nonetheless. Mr. Gibson, any record you want to make?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so given all the information before the court, Mr. Roses, the court is going to just affirm that you have bond set in the amount of $5,000. And that is concurrent with the other bond that we just set. So no additional amounts, $5,000 total. And then that you'd be released to pretrial services. If you post $5,000 bond, cash or secured, then you would be technically released on all pending matters, but you still have to go to your upcoming court dates. But you would also be released to the supervision of pretrial services. As conditions of release, court will order no alcohol or illegal drugs, follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services, and affirm that the legal defender's office is appointed to represent you. A lot of information we just went over, but Mr. Roses, any questions at this time?
No, I understand.
Okay, sounds good. So you have your next court date, January 21st, 2025. At Justice Court, you also have that arraignment next week. Make sure you appear at both proceedings. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. So you are excused. Thank you, sir. Good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Gabriel Sipa.
Okay, Mr. Sipa, you're here today on, let's double check here. We've got a couple of things that are before the court today. Looks like there was a warrant that was issued for failure to appear with a $500 bond being set. I presume this was at an arraignment. And that was for prior offenses of dangerous drug use and possession, as well as drug paraphernalia. You do have pending felony charges pending, so I'll just remind you, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. The court is ordering that bond be set in the amount of $500 plus release to pretrial services. Mr. Poston, is this being recommended, essentially perpetuating the bond amount set under the warrant?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Gibson, any record that you want to make?
No, I think a $500 bond is appropriate.
Okay, so Mr. Tipa, we have a couple things we're going to address today. The first thing is that there was a court hearing where you failed to appear. And so a couple of felony charges, a warrant was issued. That's why you were picked up today. $500 bond was set. The court's going to affirm that you have a $500 bond and set bond in that amount. And so you have to post that bond if you want to be released as to these felony charges, but you still have an obligation to appear at court at your next hearing. And that is an arraignment January 15, next week, January 15, 1:30 p.m. at Superior Court. Judge Metzger has already issued a $500 bond on a warrant. I think if you don't appear again, it's likely she's going to increase that, maybe twofold, threefold, tenfold, even higher. So make sure that you appear at that next hearing. You'll be made available if you're still incarcerated, though. So if you are still incarcerated, don't worry about you'll be transported. Court will affirm any prior release conditions as well, and also appoint the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you. So that will be what we'll do as to this matter. We do have some some city court matters that need to be addressed as well. So we'll take those up right now. And as to the city court matters, all right, looks like we have a pending petition to revoke, bless you, pending petition to revoke probation in the city court matters that was filed on or around September 24th, 2024. We had you set for, there was a warrant that was issued. Just give me one moment to keep reviewing this. All right, so at this point then, court will, as to the city court matters, which to reiterate are, we had a failure to appear on a prior criminal trespass, failure to appear on, or failure to comply on a prior court order, as well as a failure to appear on drug paraphernalia, plus probation revocation as to disorderly conduct, theft, and drug paraphernalia. The court is going to set bond in this matter in order to ensure your appearance. We're going to set an additional $500 cash or secured. Court will appoint the, see that there's current counsel still appointed on this matter. So of course, it's going to appoint the city public defender's office to represent you as to this matter. Next court date for the city court matters to get all those wrapped up as well. Mr. Tipa is going to be on January 17, 2025, 1:45 p.m. for video review. Do that with Judge Maldonado. And court will just indicate for the record if there are any other pending petitions that those are preserved unless they're otherwise resolved. I'm just going to note that in the orders really quick. So just give me one moment to take care of that, and then we'll wrap things up on this one for today. We've given you a lot of information today, Mr. Sipa. Any questions? I don't know if I heard you. Did you say anything? I couldn't.
No.
Okay. Just give me one moment, and then we'll be all done. All right, and so then we have those orders all entered. So at this time, Mr. Sipa, a few court hearings to go to. Make sure that you appear at future dates. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. And with that, we will conclude your initial appearance today. Thank you very much. Oh, really? Okay. Let me let the jail know and then we'll go from there. Was that Mr. Rosas?
Yes.
So to the jail, we may need to bring back Mr. Rosas and address bond because, but we can do that after we hear the next few defendants. Is that possible if we can bring him back to the very end?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So just so council know, we can't set concurrent bond between the two different courts. And so if the attorneys want to determine how they want to have bond set under the circumstances, 2,500, 2,500 or something like that, we could try something like that, but just think about it. We'll figure that out. Okay. Well, let's take
It's fine splitting at 25-25.
Okay. Mr. Gibson, maybe we'll give you a chance to talk to Mr. Rosas about that before we proceed, but let's go ahead and go on to our next case. Looks like we have Mr. Ward. Sir, is that you, Mr. Ward?
Yes.
And to be more specific, Richard Eugene Ward?
No, my name is Triton Odell Warren.
Oh, Warren. Okay, I'm sorry. Give me one moment to make sure we've got the right case before the court. Okay, I'm not sure where. To the jail, do we have a Mr. Ward present or was that completed previously?
It's not on today's list, sir.
Okay, all right. Well, it looks like we had a review hearing set for him. We'll get that resulted out later. Okay. All right, sounds good. Okay, so Mr. Warren, excuse me. So we have you here today for an initial appearance. You have a few pending felony charges: possession of a dangerous drug, possession of a narcotic drug, and also misconduct involving weapons. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel, and there is counsel seated next to you to help you on today's date. State is recommending bond be set in the amount of $2,500 with release to pretrial services. Mr. Poston, any additional record?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Gibson, any additional record that you want to make?
Yes, Your Honor. Appears he scored only 2 points on the failure to appear scale and 3 on the new criminal activity scale. He has no non-violent offense, and he has no prior felonies. I think release under to pretrial services would be appropriate.
Okay. What's giving me pause is I think normally I would order release to pretrial services. It's just that what's giving me pause is the firearm. But I'm not sure why that was there. That's something that'll have to be addressed later. The court at this point is going to order that a bond be set, but I'll go ahead and just reduce it to $1,500 cash as secured with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Release conditions if bond is posted: no alcohol or illegal drugs, no firearms or weapons, any firearms or weapons to be surrendered, and to follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. Pima County Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent the defendant. And then, Mr. Warren, we have your next court date then, January 21st, 2025, 1:30 p.m. for a preliminary hearing. I did see in the pretrial services write-up that we have an individual, Joy Warren, who is potentially able to accept third-party custody. You have the opportunity to speak with your public defender about seeing if that could be accomplished in the very near future. And the assigned judge on this case may very well grant that request. It's probably a request I would have granted if not for the presence of the firearm and what's happening there. It lends a level of danger and risk that I'm just not sure about right now. So under the circumstances, that's why the bond has been instituted under the totality of the circumstances, but at a reduced amount than requested by the state. So, okay, any questions, Mr. Warren, before we conclude today?
No, Your Honor.
With that, we'll go ahead and excuse you at this time. Thank you for appearing.
You think? Okay.
And then I think we might need to have Rosa sent back if that's okay. It's been approved, but I can just tell you what we do. Perfect. Okay.
Second. Gardner, you wants to tell me something real quick, if you don't mind. Yeah, thank you, Judge.
Okay, all set, Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
All right, so, sir, can you go ahead? Sir, can you identify yourself first and last name, please?
Yes, Leonard Zerate.
Okay, Mr. Zerate, we're here today for an initial appearance as to a charge of aggravated domestic violence, which is a class 5 felony. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to representation in this matter, and you do have provisional counsel seated next to you to assist you. The state is recommending that you be held without bond in this matter. And Mr. Poston, can you explain the state's recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. Logging in to get the number. Does the court not see a pending? Well, Your Honor, state, given the fact that I just logged in, it looks like this person, the one notice that the pretrial did mention would appear to be a warrant, and he's not actually out on release. This is modified as follows. State asks for a bond of $75,000 plus pretrial services. What I see here, Your Honor, here it appears he does have a warrant, but I'm noticing he's an NVCA 6. He's a 6 out of 6, and again has the warrant. It has been alleged the defendant chased and tackled the victim, a person with whom he was in an intimate relationship, then struck her repeatedly with a closed fist whilst trying to drag her back to her vehicle. He has 5 DV convictions in misdemeanor court. He has 6 felony auto theft convictions. He has 1 DUI felony conviction, 1 crim damage felony conviction, 3 felony DV convictions, and 10 pending DV felonies. Your Honor, this person is an absolute risk to the community, $75,000.
And Mr. Gibson?
Yes, Your Honor. After looking at the file, I believe a bond of no more than $15,000 would be approved. And Your Honor, yes, he's been staying at a place called Teen Challenge, which actually adult males attend there as well. That is just the name of the place, right? Yeah. So if he were to be, he would have a place to go away from any alleged victim.
What I wanted to ask, Your Honor, was if I can be released to pretrial there because I'm already staying there. I got accepted by one of the mentors. It's a Christian teen challenge, and I've been staying there for the last 3 months. And I mean, me and Vanessa are in contact, and we've just been friends. Okay, and we've just been friends. Then I have trial in June, and I'm just preparing for it. The cop stopped me numerous times. Never mentioned any warrant or anything. I told him that I was going to Teen Challenge, and they were like, "Okay, you're doing good." So where I was picked up last night was at my mom's, and I only went to go help her move. I have my stuff already at Teen Challenge, and if I could get released to the on pretrial, I mean, I'm still going to go to court, and they're going to transport me. It's a 13-month program.
Okay. Well,
I can give you the name of the gentleman who.
Mr. Poston, you were going to ask something really quick?
Yes, Your Honor. I was able to pull up the right screen. He has 2 pending felonies out of Yavapai County. For the record, it's case number 2023-01185 and CR 2023-01212. 5 counts ag DV, an account of criminal damage defacement in the former, and in the latter, a charge of ag assault, deadly weapon, dangerous instrument, 5 counts of ag DV, 1 count of disorderly conduct with a weapon or deadly or instrument, 1 count disorderly conduct, deadly weapon, 1 count resist arrest, 1 count criminal damage to face. State does reinstate its request to be held no bond.
Okay. Mr. Gibson, in light of the renewed request, any additional record that you want to make?
I'll submit what I said before, and I understand by statute the state has the right to do that.
Okay. Well, I think that given that we do have representation of there being pending felony charges for which release was granted, the court is going to, at this time, hold the defendant without bond and set a no bond hearing at the Superior Court, January 13, 2025, 2:30 p.m. Court's initial inclination was to set sort of a higher bond, but I think Mr. Zerate, this probably provides you an opportunity to try and line some things up, speak with the public defender that's going to be appointed, and see if an argument for reduced or no bond can be made at time of the no bond hearing, which could involve you getting out sooner than if there was a higher bond. So, but given that there's release on pending felonies, the court is going to order that the defendant be held without bond, at least temporarily. And the Superior Court hearing is set January 13, 2025, 2:30 p.m. To address those matters. There is also a preliminary hearing, which the court will affirm January 21st, 2025, 1:30 p.m. At the Justice Court. As conditions of release, court is going to order Whenever release occurs, no alcohol or illegal drugs, no act of domestic violence, no firearms or weapons. Follow any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services, because the court's order is also going to be that if released, pretrial services would be, third-party supervision would be in place. As stated before, the Pima County Public Defender's Office is appointed. Okay. So at this time, then those are the court's orders at this time. Any questions before we conclude?
Yes, I just want to have one question. So in that time, I could get a hold of Christopher, from the one who brought me into the home. See, we were in prison together back in 2010, and I've been going through manic depression and insomnia and all these things since me and my other half, my fiance, separated, and it was really bad. So Chris seen me on the street and he came up to me. I thought he was going to approach me to beat me up or something, because I was going through those things, where I had to look over my shoulder, that type of thing with her husband, because I got shot and I left the house. I had a manager position and everything. And what happened was Chris approached me and he said, "Can I pray for you?" And
Mr. Zerate, this time, hold on, Mr. Zerate. This is a level of detail I think that I would really prefer that you speak with an attorney before you start sharing these details. The courts, regardless of what you're saying on today's date, the court is, the decision as to holding without bond is affirmed. If you do have somebody you think you can vouch for you at that hearing, I can answer that you can see if you can arrange to have that person present and or provide some additional information to the court to see if that's, so just to get to the heart of what you're asking, you can try to make those arrangements with your public defender if there's time, okay? We do need to move on to the next defendant though. So the court will excuse you at this time. Thank you for appearing today.
Thank you.
First time. Well, I get a chance, right?
Did you fill in a sheet off that again?
Yes, please. We have to just correct the bond issue. Okay, welcome back, Mr. Roses. We just have to, we had set $5,000 cash bond among all the different charges. What we had discussed though was that after your hearing was that the concurrent bond can't be set in Justice Court and Superior Court with two different courts. So what we were talking about was maybe splitting it in half and then doing half of it in one court, half of it in another court, so that you still just have $5,000 that need to be posted. The state said they're okay with that. Mr. Gibson, is that okay? Do you want to talk to Mr. Roses briefly about that?
It makes sense to me.
What's that?
Well, now 5,000, but it'd be two different courts. So it would make really no difference financially.
Sure, I don't understand it.
Yes, it's the bond is 5,000. It was 5,000, and we think it's a good idea to just split it 2,500 in the Superior Court, 2,500. I believe that's right, 2,500 in Justice Court.
Correct.
So the total bond will be the same, which is spread out between the two courts, because they can't put them in both. They can't run it concurrently both courts.
Sure, sure, whatever's fine.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we didn't have any fervent objection from the defense before we did that. So the court will, and as to Mr. Roses, amend its prior orders and set bond in each case number, $2,500 cash and secured, one in the Superior Court matter, one in the Justice Court matter. So that's all we just need to verify. Make sure you're present for that, Mr. Roses, before we did that. Otherwise, your hearings in those cases are affirmed and you can be excused at this time. Thank you, sir.
And you get time traded. You bond on each case too, so it's good. So every day you're in here because you've been held on both cases. You get traded for these days for doing normally. Okay. Very good luck.
Okay. That should cover it for today. Thank you, everybody. Prosecution, defense, pretrial services, interpret.
I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put it down, I'll be getting loud, you can have it douse, not what I'm about, have your cloud, it be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease, just tell me that I can and show you things that you couldn't believe, just tell me that I can, just tell me that live, cause I just wanna hear it out your mouth, yeah. Give me fuel, it's a tool that I use to go ahead and run my mouth, yeah. I take shots, I take loss, I make shots, I miss lots. That's how you get big box, you get yachts, you swing lots and pop off a big shot. I ain't done chasing, got big dreams, bigger things, impatient. Who's at the top think they need replacement? Who's at the top think I'm gonna erase them? Face it, I don't give up quick, I don't give up shit, I won't give up this. Cause I know that I want it, know that I'm on it, I'll make it, I promise.